I can tell that so far people are joining. This specific topic attracts more people because they start joining like at least 10 minutes or 15 minutes before the event. Usually it's like, you know,
It's a pretty good
after it
predictor
starts.
if people, yeah, if people join early.
Fingers
So,
crossed. Yeah.
and Anton is here.
Sweet. All right.
And Anton, you should be able to turn your camera on now.
Yeah, I'm able. I just try to check my Wi-Fi connection because now I'm using my mobile internet. Give me just 1 second to check. Maybe it will be better. Tu- tu- tu.
Anton, thank you for joining a little bit sooner. And I know that you're tight on the schedule, so if you have to leave sooner, that's fine. If you can
Okay,
stick
thank you.
around, if you can stick around for an hour, that'd be awesome because I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions coming from the audience.
Yeah,
But
I'm
if
ready.
not, I mean, I understand. So, it's your call and you have important things to do. But I was just gonna give both of you a shout out. To me, you're celebrities, even though Colin has a special kingdom in the west of Ukraine, and you're pretty much you, Anton, dominate around the country, I would say.
And Where
So
is where is Colin? You said Colin.
Colin, he's the other
Colin.
speaker.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
yes,
Do you
I'm in
guys
Lviv.
do you guys know each other?
Hi,
Have
We
Colin.
never met.
I never met Colin as I remember. Or
so
maybe.
I
Anton,
listened to.
I will send you I will send you some of the links on YouTube um
Okay.
from the stand-up of Colin, and he does it in Ukrainian. So
Okay. But originally Colin is from.
I'm American.
Okay, and you learn Ukrainian language. You know Ukrainian language.
ви можете
Yes.
поговорити українською зараз.
Oh, that's amazing. Блін, Колін, давай тоді просто українською поспілкуємося
Th-
вдвох. Хай
This
нас не
Pitan.
зайобують.
This Pitan.
Відпочинемо нам трошки. Поговоримо про смерть, бездну і забуття, улюблені українські теми. No, that's amazing. That's amazing to see how Americans learn Ukrainian. That's cool. Thank you for that.
It's I love speaking Ukrainian. If I'm with people and I have the option to speak either American English or Ukrainian, it's Ukrainian.
Cool, cool, nice. Thank you for that. America supports us everywhere, even here, even in language.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
Anton, where did you learn English so well? I mean, I checked out the YouTube for your shows and for other stand-up comedy Ukrainian stand-up comedy shows, and your English by far is probably some of the is the best compared to other Ukrainian.
I'm not, my English is not the best for sure. I know a couple comedians who know much better than I. I'm very bad at grammar. I can speak fast and pretend I know English very well, but in fact, I do mistakes and forgot words. I used to be on work and travel program in USA. I don't know if you know this program for students. Work and travel, you can travel to another country. In my case, it was USA, and I spent a whole summer in USA, and I worked there on 3 jobs. I worked in a Econo Lodge Hotel, at Walgreens at the corner of Happy and Healthy. I remember the phrase. And also as a tattoo master, I also worked like not real master, temporary tattoos. And I work in Wisconsin Dells, a small town, Wisconsin state, like water parks, like one of the biggest water park place in USA, they know. So I destroy my language barrier in there at work. I just realized, oh, to speak English, it's not necessary to know grammar. You just need to speak. And sometimes just fast and with mistakes. And Americans like, it's fine. We don't like grammar also. So
Did your experience living in America have prompted you to create any jokes? Come up with any jokes? Have you the jokes that you've been telling your audience?
not
Not
really.
really. Yeah. Have
Honestly, not. It started in Ukraine. It's not like American influence. But yeah, my first comedians were Doug Stanhope and George Carlin. So they introduced comedy for me, and I was like, okay, I want to try something like that.
nice, nice.
And you're going on a tour soon in the US, correct?
Yeah, I'm going on tour in US, charity tour, but I'll perform mostly in Ukrainian language. I hope I can book some couple of small performances at open mics or maybe get 2 minutes in Comedy Cellar, just, just 2 minutes. I have a friend who performed there. Maybe he can book it. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's mostly in Ukrainian, and for Ukrainians to raise money to my army. All the money goes to the army needs from this tour, as all my tours in Europe, all my tours abroad.
What cities in America will you visit? Do you know?
A lot of like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Denver. Couple more, and also Canada. It's like Canada, USA too, like 6 or 8 towns in Canada and in UK.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. And when are you leaving?
In the end of May, if everything will be fine, because it's never like guarantees 100 guarantee% that you will cross the border, even if you have all the permissions. Sometimes stuff in Ukraine can happen,
I
and
know.
you will not go.
Man, I don't know how my day will end, let alone know what's going to happen in the end of May. So I totally understand.
Yeah. I have no lot of plans. Like these plans of the tour, kind of joke. I like, come on, I'm planning like something in 2 months. Okay, Anton, lucky. Good luck with these plans.
Yeah.
Everything's changed.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think, typically, before we begin, Sarah tells the audience, Sarah goes into repeat mode, and every like minute or so, she tells like, thank you for joining, all that. But we're seeing that we already have like 17 people, including ourselves, on the call before the webinar, which is kind of like an unusual thing for us, because usually people start joining like maybe 5 minutes before the event. And I
Okay.
think those lucky 17, including ourselves, um, have been privy to like the special edition of the
Oh my
webinar
God, the
before beginning.
special small talk about nothing. Yeah, you get this. Congratulations to listen just Ukrainian, some kind of guy you don't really know. Yeah,
Well,
that's
if
super
anything, it
privileged.
gives me a chance to practice my small talk,
Oh
skill.
yeah, I see.
I mean, that's you go to America, that's all about like most of the things start with small talk, and because you live there, and
Yeah. But I had a show like David Letterman took interview with me, so I'm not like no name, so Americans should understand. I'm not like the guy from the street. It's a serious one, comedian.
I apologize, Mr. Celebrity, that I forgot to mention this.
Yeah. Where's my bride, or sorry for that.
No, it's all good. I mean, I'm glad we are laughing already before I almost said show began, but like this is really going to be like a serious, semi-serious conversation, uh,
We will see.
considering the obvious. Yes. Um,
You're just lucky because I had a good mood today. If we had this call 3 days ago,
yeah, yeah,
it will be different conversation. It would be different conversation. Today is fine.
yeah, yeah. Once again, my condolences. Those who don't know, a famous person was killed in the war, and when I tried to get a hold of Anton, Um, a couple of friends of his have told me that it would probably be unlikely for Anton to join because you know, um, he's grieving just like many other Ukrainians have been. So
It's not like the closest friend, but we met like 3 4 times, and we like uh, follow each other all the time on social media. We have a lot of friends in common, and he's like a great man. It's like kind of man, like this. If you talk about civil society and how civil society should work, to rebuild the country and go to this democracy transit. Like this guy, Pasha Petrichenko, he was like the guy who did so many stuff to help, Ukraine to do some auctions to, catch the guys who killed activists in Ukraine. He pushed our juridicity system to get punishment for them. And he did like, I don't know how many projects in one time, super important for my country. So yeah, it's a big, I forgot this word, велика
big
втрата.
loss. It's a big loss.
The
Yes.
big loss, yeah, for Ukraine.
Well, we can
Anton,
officially start. Oh, Jeffrey's here. Jeff's here too, so we can.
I just want to acknowledge the loss of so many people, and
Yeah.
we appreciate you being here today, and I'll keep him in my heart. So
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, we can start.
Okay,
So
I know
my
we might have limited time, so I hate to
little
start
bit.
even a moment late. We have a lot of people still joining right now, but we will welcome back everyone. We have a lot of our regular attendees are here, people who've been joining since October every week, every Friday, to hear about Ukrainian perspectives. And so thank you to all of you for joining. Remember to use the Q&A function like the chat. So for security reasons, you won't be able to put things in the chat, but you can put them in the Q&A function. This webinar series is organized by Jeffrey Glynn, who is with the Peace Corps Virtual Service, Roman Oleksenko, a community project manager based in Kyiv, Olga Nikolska with isar.ednannia, a Kyiv-based NGO, and myself, Sarah Wilson-Soki. I'm a political science professor at the University of Colorado. The series is co-sponsored by PONARS Eurasia at the George Washington University, isar.ednannia, which is an NGO based in Kyiv, and the University of Colorado Boulder. You can ask questions and engage using the Q&A function. So comments, questions, notes of support, all can go into the Q&A function. Please use that actively. The chat's disabled for security reasons, as I said, and I'll put supplementary information in the chat as things are going along. Today we have Anton Tymoshenko, a volunteer and stand-up comedian in Ukraine, who we have just found out I just found out, will also be touring in the US soon. So maybe you'll get to see him in the US if that's where you're based, although not everyone joining us is in the US. We also have Colin Kubik, a former Peace Corps volunteer who is now a stand-up comedian in Ukraine. And so that's not in any way an adequate introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Roman, who is going to be our moderator today, and we'll find out more about both Anton and Colin.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, gentlemen, for agreeing to join us today. This is going to be our last webinar this season, and I'm glad to see more people join. Hope that this is my introduction to the stand-up world. At some point, I will probably use that as a bullet point on my resume. But a disclaimer: today's webinar is not going to be a comedy show, and if somehow our social media posts and emails have made this impression, we're sorry, but we hope you stick around anyway.
I can give you a couple of jokes. I performed today for a company and Americans were there, but my jokes are super dark. If you're ready, I can give you that. Maybe if you're ready for joke about America.
We'll cross the bridge when we get there.
Yeah,
I'm really hoping for some jokes. This is not a polished webinar. We do have some questions that we have pre-discussed, but if we go wild on this webinar, I'm all for it. But basically, I do hope that we were going to have some laughs here and there, despite all the gravity of the situation. I'm not going to announce our right to offend policy, so you can relax, and you can choose to leave, but only if you're in Ukraine and hear like an air raid siren. But for Americans, no excuse. You have to stick around to the very end, if offended or not. I'd like to begin with a very unusual question that has become our super popular question. Are you ready, guys? Right.
Sure.
How are you holding up? What's your day? What's your day been like? What are you doing? What's going on? What's going on in your life? Because it's important.
That's super difficult to talk about that because every day is different. And for example, like how many days ago? 5 days ago, I lost one of my friends at this war and very important man for Ukraine. And yesterday, I performed today I performed stand-up show in English. And yesterday we made a concert with singers, and it's like comedy concert. It was like do you know Eurovision contest? Eurovision contest. We made parody of Eurovision in Ukraine. We call it Nasze Bachine, and we invite some artists and some comedians just to make fun and make songs, and we raise like something about 5 million hryvnias, for that, because it's charity show to raise money for the army. And concert, was nice, and yesterday was a school day. 5 days ago, it was a terrifying day. So it's like I don't know, your mood always jumping.
Yeah, yeah, and
You just feel like like in a Joker movie, I feel like a Joker sometimes, I just need to make jokes, people just dying around, and I'm just smiling and do some stuff. That's strange and absurd.
yeah. Oh, again, we're sorry for your loss and for all the craziness in your life. And again, when I called you a few days ago asking if you would like to be on this webinar, I had zero expectations that you agreed based on what I've heard
No,
from my
Americans, I really appreciate American help, so I couldn't refuse this invitation because you just asked just near the days that America agreed this new package. So I was like, yeah, okay, they give us how many, like $6 billion. I should find half an hour.
Okay, so it wasn't my charisma that convinced you to
Yeah, yeah,
participate.
it's just
It
money,
was the American
weapon.
legislators. All right, I got
Money and weapon, yeah.
it. Colin, how was your day?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, it's like Anton said, it's a roller coaster. There's good days, there's bad days. Recently, I live in Lviv, and things here are pretty calm, so we don't have to worry too much. Of course, every once in a while there's attacks, but the weather is not great. But it's getting better, so I'm looking forward to the weather getting better. And I was sick last week, but other than that, I'm back now and healthy. And now I have a cat, and I got a cat from the front line, so I'm very happy about that. And good friend keeps me company.
Wow,
The
wow,
weather in Lviv always, looks like Britain weather. Like, it's gray and rainy, but you can go to Odessa and it's more, sky and warm. But with rain, it's also more drones. So yeah, you always choose the place to relax in Ukraine. No
And
balance of weather.
I lived in Lviv for 4 years, and I still don't have an umbrella. So I'm falling behind a little bit, but that's okay.
Counterculture. Yeah.
Mhm.
very nice. I never expected that we'd be talking about weather for about a minute, but that's fine. That's fine.
Because we're old. I'm 30 years old. I can talk only about weather, my back. It's fine now with my
Okay, then
age.
I'm gonna shut up and not say a word, considering my age. Anyway, what does our audience need to know about you, gentlemen? How did you get into stand-up comedy? If you could tell your life story in like 2 minutes, that would be great.
This is elevator speech or something like that. I don't like this question about like how I start. Let's talk about how it's end. Like I started university and just do jokes, improv or my jokes, just write and stand up or something like similar to stand up. And now I'm one of the biggest comedian, like after Zelensky in Ukraine. And I perform in Palace of Ukraine. It's like the big venue, 3,500 people go there on my special. So I'm like a popular comedian now, as I understand. Yeah, but it was like rapidly, maybe too rapid for my life. So yeah, it's like a lot of work around this right now. And yeah, sorry, I told it before. I start to love comedy because stand up because I watched the Doug Stanhope special and then one of George Carlin special, and I thought, wow, like I can say some things like that from the stage, and nobody will, punch me in my face. And people will just laugh. Nice, I want to try this. And I like freedom, like the Ukrainians like freedom at all. So stand-up is only one genre in comedy for me that give you so many possibilities to show yourself and to be yourself and say what you want to say. This is why I like this genre. And I also study political science. Maybe Sarah will like this information. So I like to joke about society, political problems. This is my thing.
This is perfect. Like you and I are similar in that regard. I'm tired of all the sex jokes. I really want to hear more jokes about politics. So that's good.
I try.
So I have to confess that I have not been to your show, but I did watch several of your shows, including On the Edge, that was filmed in the Ukrainian Palace.
Yeah.
So I'll tell more about that. Colin, I know we're joined by a number of returned Peace Corps volunteers who've served in Ukraine, and you proudly represents that community.
Mhm.
The exception that you're one of the very few who are actually present and living in Ukraine. I'm going to give a shout out to you. I'm going to give a shout out to Peace Corps Ukraine, because Peace Corps Ukraine is partially responsible for the damage that is ongoing, meaning our webinar. Colin, so what's your story?
Yeah, so I'm American, but my grandparents were from Ukraine. So I'm half Ukrainian, but I grew up in a very American family, no language, no culture, very American. And came to Ukraine, visited relatives, worked in a camp, and then I would come every year. Lived in Chernihiv for a year. After that, I still wanted to live here, lived in Chernivtsi region as a Peace Corps volunteer in a village. And then after that, I still wanted to stay here, still wanted to keep improving my language, and studied psychology at Ukrainian Catholic University. And I finished my degree there in psychology last year. And about 2 years ago, the fall before the full-scale invasion, I was working as a recruiter, was bored at work, and I just decided to start writing jokes. I've always liked jokes. I've always liked stand-up. And so I started writing jokes, started performing a lot more. I do not have audiences of 3,000 people. Last night I had 7. So there's a little.
Sometimes I also have 7. That's fine to have 7 people sometimes because in shelter, for example.
And it's very intimate, it's very fun working with a small group of people.
Yeah.
But so I've been doing stand-up for about 2 years now in Ukraine. I do it only in Ukrainian. And so right now I'm continuing that, but I'm also an English teacher, and that's kind of my main job. But I do stand-up 3 to 4 times a week here in Lviv.
Yeah. Colin, I have to admit that you have like tons of videos on YouTube about yourself. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about Colin in English, I looked up that 1 hour long interview that you gave to Ukrainian stand-up comedy YouTube channel about 9 months ago or whatever, like maybe a year ago. And it's all in English. So I want, later on, I'll probably send a link to that video so people can look you up and learn more about your experience in living in Ukraine and your stand-up comedy. All right. I would like to continue with our traditional question that we pose to every single speaker, regardless of their background and field of expertise. How do you see this war end? How do you define Ukraine?
Yeah, this is my second favorite question. After I have 3 favorite questions: how do you start the comedy, how it feels like to joke during the war, and how the war will end. I don't know. As I said, it's difficult to see future. You just see your, tasks for this day, for next days, to do something that will help your country to win and to be useful. And you think only about that. And all, one of the guy in Ukraine, like analytic, he said nice phrase. I tried to translate it in English. He said it's difficult to think about victory because victory looks like, like like something like when you see like the super bright sun, or I don't know, something, explode, and you see like the light, this light is so powerful in your face, so you just can't see, like you just see like something super light, and you can't realize what kind of form it has. Sure, I want to have like Ukraine with territories from 1991 year, but I understand it's super difficult to get to this point. But in other hand, we have no other option because Russia will never stop. Because we show our how to say in English, like Zuber, like we show like we are like, powerful and we can fight back. And this Russia, this spirit, and they like to think like we are the biggest country in the world, like we're super bad, and we just show them that even Ukraine can stop you. That's why I think they don't like us, and this is for a long time. So I don't think, like most of Ukrainians don't think about victory. They think about next war. We have the joke, yeah, let's plan next war. This fine is like, okay. So
Yeah.
I'll jump in there. Yeah, I agree with Anton, and I think it's very difficult to look into the future and think of what victory looks like. But for me, it's about Ukrainian culture and it's about winning the peace. And kind of after the full-scale invasion happened on the 24th of February 2 years ago, there was a major change in kind of just Ukrainian attitude, just not just in general, but towards each other, how we can help each other. All these networks were created, all these people were collecting donations, especially last winter when the Russians were hitting a lot of the energy sources. There was a ton of zbori, collections.
Fundraisers.
Thank you. Thank you for
This is
helping.
I help American to translate Ukrainian word. This is amazing situation.
Yes, it happens with me a lot. But yeah, so there was just this amazing, just kind of coming together of all of these Ukrainians working together. And I think that's when you think of post-war, of a continuation of that, a continuation of helping your neighbors, helping those ones who are in need, helping the people that right now we see a lot of soldiers coming back from the front lines and they have lost limbs and they have difficulties getting around because the infrastructure doesn't provide them the opportunities. They don't have the elevators or the lifts. So I think just a kind of complete change. So I don't think about victory in the sense of against Russia, but becoming a better country, becoming better neighbors, becoming better Ukrainians every day.
Nice, Colin. Nice speech, I must say. I need to, say a couple of words from me also.
You can look it up on the YouTube like a few days from now, and you can steal some of it. But you have to make sure that you cite Colin
because Colin is American. It's difficult to find optimistic Ukrainian now. American is good possible.
Yeah. All right, let's switch to like a more uplifting question before we go back to the darker themes later on. Anton, you mentioned us, and I know, but you sold out a show at Ukraine Concert Hall like a few months ago. And to those of you who don't know, again, Ukraina Concert Hall is this like swanky Soviet style venue that holds nearly like 4,000 people. And my question would be about the rise of the stand-up comedy in Ukraine. But before you answer, I'd like to quickly tell you my unhappy story, my unhappy Louis C.K. story.
Okay.
I think Anton can relate to it.
Jerking off on the woman, and she said, "Stop it." This kind of.
We don't have the capacity to like. I'm just kidding. No, but 5 years ago, I heard on the radio that Louis C.K. was coming to Kiev.
Yeah, I bought tickets.
I did too. So the first thing I did, I went online and bought some tickets. But what the radio host told was, they were surprised because they didn't know anything about stand-up comedy in Ukraine. So we're like talking like, who's this guy? Like, how come this American guy who was going to be performing in English had a sold-out venue of like 4,000 people? And then I called the radio and I got through. And I was like, I think we're talking about like a lot of expats who are living in Ukraine. And again, it's like 2019, just before COVID. So I think it's like a lot of expats, but I also think that's something that we don't know about, and that's the rise of the stand-up in Ukraine and the popularity that the stand-up comedy was receiving in Ukraine. And then what happened next was right after Louis C.K. announced his first date, his first show, or whatever, his agency, not him personally. He announced the second like show on the next day, and it also became immediately sold out. And I also have the tickets to the second show because my friends were coming from all over the place to see him. Anyway, that show got postponed twice during the COVID pandemic. And then to those of you who don't know, Louis C.K. was supposed to try, they say the third time is charm. So he was supposed to come to Kiev and perform on February the 26th, 2022. And we all know what happened on February the 24th, 2022. And I also heard that he was actually on his way. He almost like he got in the air. I'd like to think that he got in the air on his way to Ukraine because he was told that there were some fans waiting for him despite, all the craziness in the first day of the full-scale invasion. Anyway, that was my silly story. I still have the tickets, just like you too, right? I mean, Colin, you have the tickets, right?
I had 2 tickets, yeah.
I have 4 tickets.
I'm still waiting. So if you know Louis C.K., please tell him Anton Tymoshenko and Colin just waiting for him in Ukraine. Now
I'm
it's not
sure.
so dangerous.
I'm sure he will.
I checked the venue. It's fine. Yeah, he can
Yes,
perform.
I'm sure he will see this video like tomorrow on YouTube. I mean, he can't wait
Nice.
to see it. Yeah. So yeah, and I
Cool.
hope we can shake his hand when you go to America and see a bunch of like your
No,
friends.
his hands always busy, so I'm not sure about that.
See that like, this webinar is also is already producing some jokes for you guys. Anyway, so what's going on? What's going on with stand-up comedy in Ukraine? What
Yeah, you know, this is also not a like easy question to short answer, but stand up, like I have been doing stand up for like 10 years, I think, and in general, stand up exists in Ukraine, have been existing in Ukraine for I think maybe 15 years or something. So I'm one of the like first wave of comedians, maybe the second wave of comedians who just started to do something. And I think it's a little bit easier than in USA because, like in USA, you probably have how many comedians? Maybe I don't know, million comedians because people, thinking they can do comedy and a lot of open mics in Ukraine. I'm not sure how much, but I think like I don't know, maybe 100 comedians. And like if you're talking about high quality comedians who can do jokes like every year, who can write special every year or at least once in 2 years, you will have I think maybe 10 comedians, maybe eight. So it's more difficult to perform because people don't know the culture and it's not like mass. It's more mass culture stand up as a genre. But maybe like 3 years ago, you always should to explain for the people who came, okay, who is the first time on stand up show? Like 80% will clap their hands and okay, stand ups, it's comedy show, blah, 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 blah. Now, like 40% will clap their hands their first time. And from this point of view, it's more difficult to perform because people don't understand why that should be funny and how it works. But on the other hand, it's easier than in USA because not so competitive environment. So you can just, create your own stand-up club and just, book some free bar that can, split the money. The bar take money from alcohol and you take money from tickets and you just, perform every Thursday. So something like that. And yeah, and we like American comedians, and we try to, if I work with my colleagues and I work with material and try to do something, competitive comparing to the biggest is West comedians that we know. And I must say, like when I listen to Ukrainian comedians and I, listen in the American British one, I understand. Yeah, like we are not so like low level of comedy. It's pretty nice. We don't have like Stuart Lee, but we have the guys who try to do like very intellectual and difficult comedy, or like someone who like follow Andy Kaufman, like Vasil Baidak, also favorite famous Ukrainian comedian. He had some stuff in English. He definitely have subtitles on his special on YouTube, so you can check if you wanna.
Yeah,
So something like that. I hope.
Vasil Badak never got back to me. You did. Thank
I
you.
will say it. He will be now he has Instagram page in English, so I think for him this will be a nice option to make some content. So I can send information.
Yeah,
I
we
hope
can
you answer on the question about comedy. So it's something like that.
yeah, we can collectively shame him. That's fine. Um,
Yeah, sure.
Colin, Colin, I feel lucky having been to one of your shows, and thank you for inviting me. It was not Ukraina Concert Hall, you know,
Thank you
but
for laughing.
it was a cellar. It was a comedy cellar. It was like a basement in Lviv.
Mhm.
And as soon as when my friends and I walked in to sit down, like it was packed first of all, and all the seats have been assigned. You cannot really sit where you wanted to sit. All these like um, the bartenders are really strict, about who should sit where. But as soon as we sat down, I realized that it was like half of the room at least was full of your fans. Like there was some pretty ladies that were like, "Yeah, we're here for Colin. What about you?" But I want to go back not because of the ladies, but because of your show. But I found it to be very interesting, not just because you're the only American that I know that is a rising star of Ukrainian stand-up comedy, but also you have your following, you've lived here, you care about the culture, you've lived in a small village for 2 years and enjoyed it. And then now you're living in a big city and you have your fan base. What has your observation been about the development of a stand-up comedy in Ukraine? Maybe not in Ukraine, but in Lviv specifically. Do you see more people coming to your shows, or fewer people?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So in Lviv, there's really, I would say there's kind of, it's hard to say because there's a couple clubs. Some of them are mixed and they kind of share comics. And like Anton mentioned before, the competition in America is very high. In Ukraine, that's true too, but I think a lot of it, the competition is between clubs and not so much as comics. There's kind of this
Right.
competition between that. But in Lviv, there's kind of two main places that stand-up happens regularly, and that's one is called Довгі бурхливі оплески, which means long
standing ovation.
Yeah, long standing ovation. And the other one is Stand-Up Battle Club. And so those are the kind of two main places where there's a lot of stand-up. But the first one I mentioned, they just opened about less than 2 years ago. So they about a year and a half ago, after the full-scale invasion started, they took over this jazz club in the center of Lviv, and they have events there. And it's not just stand-up that they do there. They also have educational events. Like today, for example, they're doing an event about Chernobyl, kind of like a lecture series. So they do lectures there. They do music nights, but their main thing is stand-up, and they work with other stand-up comedians and do shows every week. Another one, I wouldn't call it a club, but it's a Lviv City Stand-Up. It is a club, but they don't have like a specific place where they do stand-up. But they're kind of the first club in Lviv that started doing stand-up about 8 years ago, and they're growing, and they have a big YouTube channel actually called Cherepacha, where I do a lot of my filming. But in Lviv, it's interesting because I've done stand-up in Kiev as well. Where I really like doing stand-up, but it's a little different culture. And it's hard to kind of say where the culture is different, but they often joke in Lviv, Święta Halachina, and it's like or
religion jokes. Yeah, religious jokes.
Religious jokes. Kiev, I think, would be more of like a dark humor. They like the dark humor. They like the dirty humor. They kind of expect that. In Lviv, if you come with that, it might not hit as well, might make people feel uncomfortable, which is what I do every day. But I think Lviv and Kiev are the two big stand-up cities. And I'm surprised. I don't know why there's not much in Odessa. Maybe Anton knows more why there's not
I know the reason, and Colin, you also know the reason. We just didn't notice, I think, before the invasion. Like in Odessa, in Dnipro, in Kharkiv, there were a couple of stand-up clubs, and they were pretty much popular. But after the war began, comedians just, in Kharkiv, it's super difficult to organize shows as in Odessa or in Dnipro. So they moved someone to Kiev, someone to Lviv. Yeah, and
Does
this
it
is
have
the
to do with
reason
the
why.
ongoing mobilization?
But
that could be true too.
I think like they're feel like because all you go to the basement where all the guys sit and enjoy the comedy show, and all the military folks just stop by to recruit everyone to go to join the army. Do you think that could be the reason, ongoing mobilization?
I don't think this is the reason. Like it could happen in any city, and in fact, it's more. You have high chances to be mobilized on the west of Ukraine, on Zakarpattia, or even in Lviv, because in Kharkiv, I don't know any information about that kind of mobilization. In Odessa, it could be. I don't think this is like the big reason. And yeah, we have a couple of nice comedians who go to serve. Like Sergey Litko is a great Ukrainian comedian, and he decided to serve from the first days. And also a couple of guys, more not so popular comedians, but also good. So it's also the reason. Because comedy is like it's not the most important thing now in my country.
Yeah.
And don't tell Zelensky this information.
Go ahead, Colin.
No, I just wanted to say about Lviv. After the full-scale invasion started, there was about 3 weeks, and this might have been also around the country, but there was no stand-up. And one of the clubs, stand-up battle club, they started doing a thing called Kulturna Oborona, where they would basically invite guests
Like
on.
podcast.
Yeah, it's like a
Sounds like podcast.
podcast, like but in the restaurant live show, and they would raise funds. So that was kind of the first thing after the full-scale invasion started, was to immediately start thinking about how victory. And
Oh, yeah. Nice. Colin mentioned that, and I think that's important to mention if you have some guys from universities, right, professors who watch this seminar, they understand, or just people who, you know, who love interesting things. And I think, from my point of view, this phenomenon of fundraising in Ukraine, how like we organize society, like everything in your life could be fundraised. You can sell stuff to, you know, fundraise art. You can do shows to raise money. You can sell used weapon from the battlefield on charity auction to raise money. We do shows, we do jokes to raise money. Like this culture of raising money is super huge. And I think if like other countries, we learn how to raise money in an entertaining, you know, way, in like in every sphere of your life. So this is nice theme, you know, to some researching, you know, to write some work about that, how to build society around this fundraise atmosphere, how to
Yeah,
tell it correct
yeah,
in
and
English.
that's exactly what I wanted to add. You know, just to throw in a couple of facts that I've come to learn about is that how our stand-up comedians, meaning our Ukrainian stand-up comedians, are not just stand-up comedians. They're some of
Yeah,
the largest fundraising machines in the country, especially since the full-scale invasion. That's the fact number one, and this is something I really like. Um, the second fact is that up until the full-scale invasion, I would say, based on what I hear, uh, some of the stand-up comedians, including the famous ones, would do their stand-up in Russian, in the Russian language. What I
right.
did notice since the full-scale invasion is that I think all of them have switched to Ukrainian, even
Yeah.
those who used to do it in Russian. I don't know about you, Anton. Is that your story, or you've been
Oh,
you've
I perform in Russian language a lot, long time. No, most of my time in comedy and stand-up, I perform in Russian. I'm from Nikopol city, like from small village near Nikopol called
and just
Venjinske.
those of you who don't know what Nikopol is a small city in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, which is subject
Yeah,
to heavy Russian attacks on a daily basis, shelling.
yeah.
You know, it's close to the front lines.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I evacuated my parents, yeah, from the city to Kiev. Yeah, and that I speak mostly Russian, but then in university I learned more my culture. I understand, yeah, I can perform also in Ukrainian, but a little bit nervous to perform in Ukrainian because I spoke in Russian more from my childhood. And then I switched, like I started to do both languages in 2018, right, or 19, I'm not sure, in 2019, I think. And I decided to switch and perform only in Ukrainian. I announced my on the Ukrainian tour like 3 months before the invasion began. And I had this joke like in my one of my special after the full war invasion. Yeah, because in Ukraine we have the staff who switched more early to Ukrainian and who did it early. That is a better guy because he understand. And I do it like 3 months before invasion. So like I compare Ukrainian language with the Bitcoin. I just
You made
noticed
it.
that this,
You made it. You barely made it, but you made it.
yeah, I just like jump in the last wagon
Car.
of this train. Yeah, yeah, it's fun.
So okay, well, let's get to the darker side of our interview. Um, Anton, I watched your On the Edge show, and I
Yeah.
laughed so hard when I heard you joke about a Russian kamikaze drone killing you, and it was like such a stupid death because you would prefer to be killed by like a cruise or hypersonic missile or something, but being killed by a Russian drone that has a stupid sound that is kind of like,
It's
you know,
Iranian drone, but used by Russian. I
I know,
just
it's
want to
all
notice
Russian.
that. That's important to notice for American people. You know, just that's not Russian exactly.
You sound like a Louis C.K. Like that's detailed, but it's important. All right.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So what
A lot of jokes about death, about suicide, death,
Exactly.
nuclear bombing, this shelling, and another about death and your life during war and mental health. Yeah, this is my
Yeah. So
main
so
theme.
so my next question to both of you, but we'll start with Anton. What are your studies or observations on humor during the wartime, and how do Ukrainians perceive and consume humor during such trying times?
I don't understand first question. Sorry.
Observations, спостереження. What are your like?
Hmm.
How do Ukrainians perceive? Because everybody, like your audience, laughed when you joked about being killed or
Yeah,
fighting in the bomb shelter. All these Russian like I would say half of your show was about suffering, death, war, and yet people laugh.
comedy
Yeah, but it's
show.
probably Ukraine would probably the only place when we would spend half of our shows talking and joking about war, and people would relate to it. So what's your conclusion? Why do people laugh at death?
Uh, was yeah, sorry. How to? Yeah, sorry. My mom called me. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Do
I'm
you
back.
have to take
I'm
it?
back. No, no, it's fine.
You can take a call.
That's fine. That's fine. This she can wait. Americans, she will understand. You spoke with Americans. That's fine. And you should.
That's your
Uh,
that's the only pass.
Ukrainians,
Yeah.
yeah, Ukrainians left because they just have no other option. And we can talk a lot about that, but I think the best description I can give you, best definition is why it happens. I get it from my friend who is soldier, and he said, when you're on the front line, when you're just close to fight, with your opponents, it's always stress. And you, like people in your group of soldiers, divide it all usually divides into groups. First group who depressed, and just they're just depressed, and second group who just start joking and use the most dark joke they could create because it helps, this coping mechanism, blah blah blah, all this stuff. But in fact, it's just the thing that can help you go through in the most stressful moment. Because laugh works like relaxation on your body. So when your body has a stress and you make a laugh, you're afraid less. Because if you joke about death, you're afraid death less. That's why I think it works now during war.
Yeah. Colin, I have not heard you joke about war, but um what's your observations?
Yeah, and I don't I try I have a couple indirect jokes like about sirens or certain things, but direct jokes are very difficult, especially being an outsider. It's a little bit more difficult for me to point fun at that. It's possible, but not for me, I don't think. I think you have to come from a different type of experience. But I think there's multiple reasons, like Anton said. It's a coping mechanism, but it also just it makes you feel like things are normal. When you're laughing, it can kind of boost your mood, and you just don't think about the things that are occurring around you as well. As I was also reading before this webinar, and I can't remember what it was about, but it was about tragedy and how comedy is about pointing out the insanity in life, and the war is the biggest insanity, which means it's the
Yeah,
biggest challenge to comedy. And I think comedians, they see it as a challenge, and even if they don't joke about war, they're making jokes during war, and it's still a challenge to get people from that kind of feeling of despair and anxiety to kind of a better feeling of back to normalcy. And I think that also there's the culture that is developing through comedy, because there's a lot of kind of things that people joke about that aren't just joking about on stage, but just with your friends, like Pes Patron, or other memes that
yeah,
bring people together. So comedy, last year during my studies in psychology, there's a type of humor called affiliative humor, which is the humor of joking about situation things, bringing people together. So it's not just about boosting your mood, but about connecting people, thinking about I know that when people go to see Anton's show, after they're talking about it, they're talking about their favorite jokes. They're using those jokes. Hopefully they're doing that with me too, but I know that for sure
Well,
people like.
my kids are. I've showed them a couple of your. I had to fast forward some parts of your shows, but they actually enjoyed it, so they're quoting you sometimes.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, so I think it's just the stand-up community. It's weird because in Ukraine, like we've mentioned before, it's very young, but it's also very powerful, and it's bringing people together. It's allowing people to escape from reality, which isn't always a good sound when you escape from reality, but you need those things. I usually use YouTube to escape from reality, but other people, they can go see stand-up. And I think it's, like I said, the sense of normalcy kind of allows them to think, okay, I saw stand up, today is over. We can continue with tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you just mentioned some of the memes. You mentioned the pes patron, which is a famous Ukrainian dog that had been used to sniff up mines. And I remember, like, especially during the first days following the full-scale invasions, I was desperately looking for something that would put a smile on my face and in the faces of my children. And luckily, Ukrainians have always been known for these dark sense of humor, but always finding joy, not joy, but like a reason to laugh and make fun of the enemy, especially, and do it in such a creative way. And my next question to both of you would be, do you remember at least one meme that stuck with you for a long time, something that brightened your day
Oh.
when you first heard it, something that you may be repeating from now, every now and then? And
I know, like,
if so, I'd like to challenge you and try to explain to our audience what it really means, because some of them are really tricky.
my favorite one, which I have a lot of, but I just remember one for now. It's difficult to explain. I can try to give you the context. Okay, do you know this actor who played Joffrey in Game of Thrones TV series? The Joffrey
Yeah.
guy, I forgot his name,
Mhm. Yeah.
Eccles or something like that. He came to
He came
Ukraine,
to Ukraine. Yes.
he
Yeah.
came to Ukraine to support. Yeah, and I had this joke in my special. I said, even Joffrey came to Ukraine, but I don't believe this guy because he killed the king of the north. So we remember that shit. And he came and he has this, mustache, very funny mustache, and he looks very similar to one famous Ukrainian deputy from the past. His name Taras Chernovil. It's one of the, how to say, when the Ukraine became independent, it was one of the most famous, like, pro-Ukrainian candidate for president election.
Yep.
But he lost this election because he died. And why he died is like a kind of little bit mystery. And he looks like this Joffrey looks like Taras Chernovil very close. And I saw the TikTok when they took this Joffrey speaking something and they put Taras Chernovil's speech on his speech of Joffrey and add some, effects and the logo of Ukraine political party. And I just laughed so hard, maybe because I'm studying political science. And for me, this was like a super funny trick.
Yeah, that's funny. Colin, what about you? Do you have your favorite meme or a couple?
Yeah, so one, it's memes are, for stand-up comedians, memes are a little difficult. I think they're kind of cheap humor. They're
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I like anything that has to do with tractors stealing tanks. And at the beginning of the war, especially, there was a lot of images going around of tractors dragging off Russian tanks. So that's one
Which
of
is
them.
not a
And then,
joke. Which is not a joke. That's the thing, right?
yes, it's not a
Yeah.
joke. It's not a joke. However, it is very humorous. And anything to do with Boris Johnson, because he was a big supporter at the start of the war, and he just got this crazy hair, and he just looks like an insane person. But he was very strong for Ukraine, and so anything that had to do with Boris Johnson, I was a fan of.
Roman, I just want to let you know there's a couple good questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you. I was about to switch to those questions before I saved Mike,
I have like
questions are
like
very
7 minutes. I have something like
okay.
that.
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry for that.
And don't forget to call your mom
Yeah,
as
after
a neighbor
meeting.
person telling you. Yeah,
I
yeah.
today I'm why I'm so in hurry. I'm in the meeting in Back and Live
Come back
Foundation for
alive. Yeah.
NSGW.
And
Yeah,
those
Taraschevut is very close, so I need to go.
oh, tell him I said hello. We met briefly one time, but he doesn't remember me. But funny you should mention about someone who I met who doesn't remember me. But we have a question or comment from one of our former speakers and attendees, regular attendees. Dear Anton, we have met in Kharkiv last time, just a week before the invasion, as I was one of the co-organizers of the Fake X project aimed
Oh yeah,
to
fake gigs.
confront disinformation and rise a critical thinking through the comedy besides other
Yeah.
means. Other means. Do you think that humor is the best way to tackle Russian propaganda in and outside Ukraine? Or should we take it seriously and spread the real information among Western allies on Russian attitudes and goals? I addressed this question to Colin too. Probably he has a different vision as an American and a psychologist.
Okay. Yeah, I have an answer. I think you should use both, like serious arguments and also comedy stuff. But I have an example from my special, how comedy could, work against Russian propaganda. In my special, I talked about, excuse me, I talked about that Russia likes to say the Ukrainians are Nazi. We are Nazi here, Nazi in Ukraine. I said, okay, let's imagine this situation. Okay, we are Nazi with a president who is a comedian, who is a Jew, and who won Dancing with the Stars show in Ukraine. So that's true. So do you think it's easy to become the leader of Nazi state after you won Dancing with the Stars show? After whole country saw you was dancing, this fucking pasodoble. What kind of Nazi will follow this guy? Like dancing Nazis or who? And in this like real situation, Zelensky is this funny guy, just destroys this narration that we are Nazi because look at like we choose this funny guy just to be our leader because he just like to have fun. But this is like comedy argument. Another serious argument, for example, like this, all these far right parties never crossed 3% barrier on elections. So we should do both, but comedy is like powerful thing, to destroy this
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
And yeah, I should mention that the question came from Yulia Bedenko. And Colin, do you have anything to add as a Ukrainian psychologist?
Uh, uh, as a Ukrainian psychologist, not much, but as Colin, yes, I do have. I think of humor. Humor is kind of important when it comes to propaganda in the sense of free speech, and humor is, especially stand-up comedy. You are out there saying crazy stuff, and once stand-up kind of dies, then propaganda um, can flourish and do really well when there's no humor, because that's kind of the front line to free speech. And once that starts breaking down, other speech starts getting broken down as well. And so I think humor, I don't know if it's the best way to fight propaganda, but it's definitely on the front when it comes to fighting propaganda and being kind of there for free speech reasons.
Yeah, that's a nice point.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great, great. Thank you. We have another question from RPCV Kyle Logan. Is there anything like USO tour, comedians entertaining troops at bases near the front line in Ukraine?
Yeah. I had I have two tours, like for like how to say tour. First time it was last year. First time it's close to summer and spring. First time it was on the east, on Donetsk region. We go there. Me, Vasil Baidak, and Nastya Zatvala, three comedians. We go there for 3 days, and we had try not to lie to you, but something about like 12 performances in these 3 days. You just start from the morning and you have like 4 shows in one day, and you go from the base to the base. It's not like a big basis. It's mostly like you perform for 20 soldiers, sometimes for 10 soldiers, sometimes for 100 soldiers. It differs. And once we performed in a trench, just in a trench in blindage, how to say in English, blindage, I'm not sure. The place where soldiers slept in a trench. We go there. It was our last performance for this day. We go there at night on medical service machine. with no light to get to this range, and there were like 9 soldiers, and we sit together, and just to tell the stories and do some jokes, and that was amazing. Honestly, feels a little bit uh, scary, but and so powerful in the same moment. And one more trip I had on the south in the Zaporizhia region. But on the east, we perform like pretty close to the front line, maybe 7 kilometers, 10 kilometers to the front line. But on the south, we performed like 40, 30 kilometers. And for Ukrainian comedians, like nothing. And it was more calm. But yeah, it's not easy to perform soldiers. Or just like, to hear simple joke. They don't want to listen about my political analytics stuff. They are tired about that. And they don't want to listen about my suffering things in, Kiev, because they had more difficult things in their life. So you should to find this way, this key.
So
But usually it
what are some of
was
the
nice.
jokes that they've enjoyed? Like, do you have what's your observation?
Um, it's like simple jokes about stupid people in Ukraine, like about Alexei Arestovich jokes about this idiot, or some, the stupid journalist, or about a couple jokes about Zelensky for sure, or about international help, about relationship, with girls, or just, some like how to say this daily routine jokes. Like I think they want to listen something from normal life. It helps them, to back there and laugh about, this. It helps them to forget about the sport for a second more.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, quickly. I know you have to jump off it, but Colin, I think you have. I don't think you visited the soldiers in the trenches to perform there. I
Mm.
think that day is coming, and I think you have advantage because you don't have a chance of being mobilized as an American. So you can go anywhere you want. I mean, almost everywhere. But there's something to consider. As
We'll
long
do.
as you're safe, as long as you're safe, yeah, whatever that means. Okay, we have Mike Kidover says just wanted to say hi to Colin.
Hi,
Uh,
Michael.
Irina Reuter, a friend of mine, says thank you, дякую, з нетерпінням чекаємо Антона у Вашингтоні в травні. So I'm waiting impatiently
We
for
will see
Anton
you.
in Washington D.C. in May. That's it for the questions. Anton, I know you have to leave, which you can. I do have one last question before we disconnect, but it's basically a question about the message to the American audience or to any audience, really, everyone who's joining us today.
Ooh. I just want to say thank you for supporting Ukraine, and I hope you will continue your support. And I understand that you already help a lot, and it's like historical scale of help for one country in one war. But also this war is like historical in a bad way. Like this is one of the biggest war in modern history, and I hope you will help us to help through. Help truth to win. How to say? I forgot this in English. Like, щоб правда перемогла,
Yep,
like
yep.
the truth should win, because truth on our side. We don't want to have this war. Russia just decided to take our territories, and we should stop their here, or they will continue, their invasion. And we should show this authoritarian regimes that you can't just have nuclear weapon and just do whatever you want to do. No, there is like some kind of justice in the world. And if we lost this war, we just show for these guys they can do whatever you want to do. So I hope we will stop Russia and build a better world, more powerful world where good people also should be good people should have weapon. This is the reality now, and we should show our strength for the guys who think we are weak and they can do whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Anton, thank you so much. I'll let you jump off, and we're still
Thank
waiting
you.
for Colin to answer the question. But I want to wish you much success with your North American tour. If you end up
Yeah.
seeing Conan O'Brien or I don't know David Letterman again, tell them
Yeah,
thank
for
you.
sure. He's my
Yeah,
friend. Yeah, he waiting for me every day.
yeah. Wish you much success. Travel safely, and thank you for what you do to support Ukraine, to support our troops. You're my hero, just like Colin is. Travel safely, and again, bring a lot of cash.
Yeah, I'll try and buy some weapon. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me, and have a nice day and nice conference.
Thank you. Colin, did you
Yes.
just, oh, you're still there. All of a sudden, I just like, he disappeared from my screen. It's like, well, I did not let you leave. You didn't have my, permission
I'm
to
still
leave.
here. I'm still here.
All right. So, what's the main message that you would like to send to our audience?
Yeah, I think I see that there's kind of two. I mean, I don't know where everyone is located, but I'm assuming right now it's just Americans and Ukrainians. I'm assuming there's maybe other people. But for the Americans, keep supporting Ukraine, keep bringing it up. It's very difficult. Tragedy is hard to pay attention to after a long period of time. It gets tiring, and however, you're not experiencing the tragedy like Ukrainians are, but I understand that it is difficult to pay attention to something so awful for such a long time. But keep thinking about it. Keep supporting Ukraine. Do whatever you can, whether that's donations or getting the word out, learning about Ukrainian civil society, which is what you're all doing, but to keep supporting that, keep supporting the development of Ukraine. As well as obviously in America, it's an interesting time right now, but I think that I have hope for the future, and I think good things will come, but there might be some more difficulties. For the Ukrainians, keep fighting. It's a fight that needs to be won, and like Anton said, the truth will be victorious. And I think that who knows what that will look like in the future, but I think that it's important to keep developing individually, and in wherever you're at, either in Ukraine or in the world, but think about the people around you and how you can help the people around you with what they're going through. Even though yes, there's a war and there's a big cause to be fighting for, there's people around you that are hurting that you can help with. So that is my message to everyone.
Thank you, Colin. I think, the strongest message for me, and thank you for all those powerful words, but the stronger message from you for me is the fact that you've moved to Ukraine, that you're living in Ukraine. And that's a great motivation for an inspiration for a lot of Ukrainians, especially when you see you come up on stage and tell jokes in Ukrainian. And I look forward to more events that you will invite me to. And I encourage all of the Ukrainians and all of the Americans to check out YouTube videos about Colin and his performances, including his subtitles. But I hope that Colin's Ukrainian will motivate you to brush up on your Ukrainian a little bit, because some jokes are really, really funny, especially the one about creativity when the Americans see a tire, like a car tire, and the Ukrainians see a swan. And only Ukrainians will understand the joke, I think. But that's, you do a little bit of digging and you find out why. So I'll leave you intrigued. So again, just don't forget when you become like super popular, I can be your agent.
I won't forget.
Yeah. Including both in Ukraine and the United States, if when we survive this war. But with that, I conclude this webinar, but I'll leave it up to Sarah to wrap it up and maybe, give some announcements for whatever may happen in the future. Thank you.
Just a huge thank you to you, Colin, for joining us today. I mean, I know between having a full-time job and doing stand-up 3 to 4 times a week, I think your schedule is probably quite full. So thank you for taking this time today to talk to us. And of course, honored that I could even be part of this. And a huge thank you to Anton as well. He's already left, of course, but just enormously grateful that he was able to join as well, and that we're more important than his mother. I'm very heartened by that, that he did not take her call even, not really. I'm not good at making jokes, so I have to clarify that what I'm making is a joke. But and enormously grateful to our audience. Every single name that I see in our webinar who's attended are people who've come before. and who have attended before and have stuck with us and have continued to listen to Ukrainian perspectives and learn more about what's going on in the country and understand the work being done at a really local level. And we're just enormously grateful for all of you that you've joined and kept coming back. So I put it in the chat. Right now we're planning on, I'm tearing up a little bit at the end of this that we won't be doing this again for a while, but we're planning on relaunching it again because the work in Ukraine will go on and on for a long time, and it will be of great importance. So we are planning on starting again in September. We'll update the website. We'll send you lots of emails, whether you like it or not. Actually, you can opt out. That's my other attempt at a joke. I've been very inspired today to try to make jokes that aren't going to land.
Is
But
it weird that when you make a joke, you don't hear the laughter? You know,
I
you don't
know. Well, so, and I
faces.
just want to be like, just so
You're
you
stuck with
know,
us.
it's a
Yeah.
joke. But thank you to all of you. We are officially ending the webinar now, but we'll be back, and we hope that we'll see you again, and we'll talk to more people in Ukraine and more Ukrainians, and the amazing heroic work that they're doing on behalf of freedom around the world. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next in the fall. So thank you, Colin.
Thank you.